From a princess life to a narcissist wife, the illusion of love. The woman who had it all wasn't just living a dream, I built it. By the time I was 27, I had made my first million. I was the girl people whispered about with admiration, a woman who turned her vision into reality. I traveled the world in first class, wore designer heels like they were sneakers, and owned a brand that had my name echoing in boardrooms and boutiques. I was powerful, but not hardened. Empathy was my superpower. My friends called me sunshine. I lit up rooms, not with noise, but with a quiet kind of magnetism. Heads turned when I entered, not just for how I looked, but for the energy I carried. I helped people. I gave without expectation. I felt everything deeply. Love, loss, joy. I believed in good. I had it all. Or so I thought. And then I met him. It was ordinary at first. An elevator ride in a glass tower. I was there for a meeting, heels clicking, mind racing. And then the doors opened. He stepped in. Tall, well-groomed, with an intoxicating scent and a smile that could disarm an army. "Going up?" he asked. I smiled back. Oh, if I only knew. The elevator encounter, I didn't know who he was. Not yet. He was wearing a crisp navy suit that looked like it belonged in GQ. Impeccably styled, perfectly relaxed, but with eyes that didn't just look at you, they read you. "You work here?" he asked, casual and confident. "No, just a meeting," I said. "Well, then this building's lucky today." Cheesy? Maybe. But his tone made it charming, like he meant it. Like he saw something more in me than anyone else ever did. And the way he opened the elevator door for me before I even moved, that made an impression. By the time we hit the 14th floor, we were already laughing. The elevator felt like a private lounge, and time warped in those few seconds. What I didn't know was that fate had twisted our paths. We were both headed to the same office. He was the new senior advisor on the same project I was leading. My heart skipped. My gut tightened, but he smiled. "Looks like we're going to be seeing a lot of each other." That night, I replayed the moment again and again, but this wasn't a meet cute. It was the beginning of a slow, exquisite deception. The business romance. Working together made it worse or better. I couldn't tell. He wasn't just charming, he was competent. Quick on his feet, articulate in meetings, respectful of my leadership. He complimented me in ways that didn't feel like flattery, but recognition. "You have the kind of presence that changes a room," he once told me. I laughed it off. But inside I bloomed. Every interaction felt ... warm, safe, special. We'd stay after meetings and end up talking for hours about life, travel, childhood dreams. He never tried too hard, and yet he always seemed to say exactly what I needed to hear. My walls began to soften. Not crash down, but melt, slowly, like ice under the sun. He once waited downstairs in the rain just to walk me to my car. No umbrella for himself. Just stood there, drenched like a movie scene. I was used to being the powerful one, but with him, I felt cherished, like I could finally stop performing. Finally rest. It wasn't fireworks, it was hypnosis. But I didn't realize he was scripting the show. He knew exactly what role to play. And I was falling scene by scene. The mirror mask. They say narcissists don't seduce you, they mirror you. He didn't just compliment me, he reflected me. If I spoke of passion, he'd say, "I've never met someone so aligned with mine." If I shared fears, he'd hold my hand and whisper, "I've been there too." He echoed my language, my values, my deepest desires. It felt like I'd found my twin flame, a man who understood the weight I carried, the dreams I chased, the childhood wounds I still patched. I'd never felt more connected to another soul. He wasn't rushing anything. If anything, he made me feel in control. "You lead," he'd say, "I'll follow your pace." But what I didn't know then is that while I felt safe, I was also being studied. Every detail I shared was being stored like ammo. Not for love, but for leverage. This wasn't a man falling in love. It was a predator preparing a profile, and I was about to let him all the way in. When the walls began to shift, we started working late. Not because we had to, but because we wanted to. Ideas flowed effortlessly between us. We challenged each other, completed each other's thoughts. It was professional. Until it wasn't. He had a way of noticing things no one else did. "You always tuck your hair behind your ear when you're deep in thought," he said once, while we were finalizing a pitch. I blinked. I hadn't even realized I did that. It wasn't just attention. It was observation, careful, calculated. One night, I was sitting barefoot on the edge of the boardroom table, laptop open, papers scattered. He looked at me and said quietly, "You're different from anyone I've ever met." There was a pause, not long enough to call awkward, but just long enough to be remembered. I laughed it off, changed the subject, but a part of me held on to that sentence like a secret. I told myself it was harmless. We weren't crossing any lines, yet somehow, the air between us had changed. It wasn't love. It wasn't lust. It was something far more dangerous. It was dependence in disguise. And when someone like him starts studying you, he's not falling for you. He's building a blueprint. The gift of attention, he had an uncanny ability to make me feel truly seen, not just superficially noticed. It was the kind of attention that made you believe someone really understood the depths of your soul. He remembered the tiniest details, the name of my childhood dog, how I liked my coffee, the exact way I described my biggest dreams and fears. To anyone else, it might seem trivial, but to me, it was intoxicating. It felt like he was listening in a way no one ever had before. But that's the trap with narcissists. They don't offer attention out of genuine care. They collect it as data. Every word I spoke, every vulnerability I showed was carefully logged in his mind, like puzzle pieces that would later be rearranged for his control. In public, he was perfect, attentive, charming, almost heroic. But behind closed doors, small things began to slip away. He interrupted just enough to redirect conversations subtly, or vanished at moments I most needed him, leaving me confused and longing. Those small shifts built up over time, and I started to question who he really was beneath that polished exterior. Was it love, or was I being carefully groomed? The mask slips, the first real crack in the facade came unexpectedly. After a long, draining meeting, I was ready to relax, but he suddenly sighed and said, "You expect me to be perfect all the time?" His words hit me like a cold wave, confusing and sharp. "What do you mean?" I asked, searching his eyes for a clue. He smiled, but there was no warmth there, only exhaustion. "I'm tired of playing this part," he said, as if confessing a deep burden. Was this a rare moment of honesty or a subtle warning? That night, I couldn't shake his words. Curiosity took hold, and I found myself Googling covert narcissism, traits, signs, behaviors. The more I read, the more I felt the description fit him too well. The charm, the subtle manipulation, the way he mirrored me perfectly to pull me in. I wanted to dismiss it, to believe in the man I thought I knew. But a small voice inside whispered, "Be cautious. Not everything is as it seems." The truth was creeping closer, but I wasn't ready to face it yet. The first doubt began to seep into my mind quietly, almost imperceptibly. It wasn't one big event, but a series of small moments that didn't add up. Contradictions in his stories, unexplained missed calls, his sudden coldness after warm days. I blamed myself first. Was I imagining things? Was I too sensitive, overthinking every detail? His favorite response was always, "You're too sensitive," whenever I brought up my concerns. That phrase became a weapon, making me question my own feelings and reality. It was more than just a communication issue. It felt like a subtle gaslight, twisting my perception, making me doubt what I knew to be true. Still, I clung to the belief that he was what I wanted, what I needed. The man who once seemed like a dream now felt like a puzzle missing pieces. The hardest part was admitting that the person I adored might also be the one who was slowly breaking me. Love was supposed to build you up, but this felt like erosion. And yet, hope kept me tethered, even as the shadows lengthened. The web tightens, the trap tightened around me in ways I didn't immediately see. It began with small exclusions. Suddenly, I wasn't invited to certain conversations. Ideas I'd shared at meetings were credited to him, and compliments from him carried subtle criticisms. "You're brilliant, but sometimes too emotional," he said once, as if it was a gift wrapped in a warning. Another time, "You're talented, but maybe a bit impatient." Each comment was a tiny chisel, slowly sculpting my insecurities, carving away my confidence. I started to internalize his judgments, wondering if I truly was too emotional or impatient. Meanwhile, he pulled away emotionally, creating distance while maintaining a facade of closeness. I was caught between trying to prove myself and fearing I'd never be enough no matter what I did. The more I tried, the more elusive his approval became. Yet the charm that once drew me in still flickered on rare occasions, keeping me hopeful. I held on to those brief moments, hoping the man I fell for was still there somewhere. But the truth was painful. The real man I thought I knew was never going to show up. Instead, I was trapped in a carefully crafted illusion designed to keep me under control. The isolation came not as a sudden shove, but as a gentle nudge disguised as care. "Your friends don't understand you like I do," he said with a tone so convincing, I didn't question it at first. Exhausted from the stress at work and emotionally drained, I stopped answering invitations and stopped reaching out. My closest friends began to fade away, their texts and calls less frequent until they stopped altogether. Family conversations became shorter, more strained. I told myself it was just stress and a busy schedule, but the truth was darker. He was quietly dismantling my support system, building a world where only he existed, where my reality was his reality. And in that shrinking world, I belonged only to him. The people who loved me were pushed to the edges, replaced by a man who claimed he was protecting me but was, in reality, isolating me. It was a loneliness wrapped in disguise, a key step in his control. At first, I didn't see it as a warning sign. Later, I realized isolation was one of the cruelest traps of narcissistic abuse. The illusion breaks. One night, standing in front of the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. The bright, confident woman I once was had been replaced by someone tired, anxious, and full of questions. I had lost pieces of myself, not to love, but to manipulation disguised as affection. The charm, the attention, the compliments that once felt like sunshine were a mask. I still held on to hope, telling myself that love might conquer all, that he might change, that we could rewrite our story. But deep down, I knew some people don't change, and some stories don't end happily. The truth was shattering, but it was also freeing. Acceptance of reality became my first step toward reclaiming my life. This moment marked the end of innocence and the beginning of awareness. The illusion had broken, but the fight for freedom was just starting. The unfinished story. This is where the story pauses, hanging in suspense. No dramatic kiss, no sweeping confessions. Just a question lingering in the air. Will she break free? Will he finally reveal his true face? Or will the illusion consume them both completely? If you're ready to follow her journey, the rise, the fall, the struggle to reclaim her identity and power, you're in the right place. This isn't just a story about love. It's a story about survival, power, and the truth behind the masks people wear. What you see isn't always what you get. If you want to uncover the layers, learn the red flags, and witness a woman's fight for herself, subscribe and turn on notifications. The next episode will change everything, and the real story is only beginning.